everyone and happy Easter on this Easter Sunday. So I've had loads of comments from people since posting my latest coloured piece on social media asking for a tutorial for this. Well, I call it mermaid skin. I think she's a mermaid. It says something similar to that on the other side of the page when it describes the page. So I just took the word undersea and mermaid and I thought, let's try something completely different for a skin tone. Now I have to say that I saw a Instagram post by Christine Karen, this one, and I love that skin tone, and I thought, I wonder if I can, just by looking at that photograph, try and emulate that kind of tone, the colours used and things like that. So I just have to say that it's Christine Karen's original idea that inspired me. So I don't want to take, 100% credit for it, but this is what came out when I was attempting to emulate that particular picture. Now, Christine's photo is absolutely amazing. Her colouring skills, her blending skills, everything is a lot softer, a lot smoother than mine. And that just is a testament to the incredible artist that she is. But this is the best that I can do when trying to do the same thing. So we're going to have a tutorial on it today. I'm going to pop this in front of me so that I can keep referring back to it, because even though I only finished it last night, I'm really crap at remembering what I did and when. And I thought that we would try it on this page from Daria, Colour & Chicks. I'll leave the link to this page in the description if you want to go ahead and buy it. And you can do off Etsy. So that's what I thought we would do. I'm going to zoom you in on her face and we will get started. First of all, I'm using Polychromos pencils by Faber-Castell, and these are the colours that I'm using. So we've got Helio Turquoise, which is number 155, Cobalt Turquoise 154, Dark Indigo 157, Delft Blue 141, Light Flesh 132. I believe this name has now been changed to something else. I have the older pencils, but the number is still the same, 132. Then there's Ivory 103, Fuchsia 123, and Violet 138. Now I also put a little bit of green around her eyes when I did this originally, so I'm going to get a green out just so that we can do that as well. And it's probably going to be these two. I'm just picking them at random. This is the Phthalo Green 161 and the light Phthalo Green at 162. So I'm going to put them off to the side. I'll do that sort of closer to the end. Okay, so let's get started. I started with the Delft Blue, and I started off by mapping out all of the shadows of the face. This is generally how I would do a skin tone. So I'm going to think about where the shadows would be. I'm not one of these who's completely precious about realistic shadows. So I might not do a shadow under this curl of hair or around here where there'd be a shadow from this subject's hair, but I generally just do my shadows in the same sort of place on every photo that I do, if it's a front-facing portrait. Okay, so Delft Blue, nice and sharp. I'm going to put a light layer of that down the side of her face, starting at the ear, right next to, like right on the line of the face, but then coming just that slight bit away from the jawline as we come past the ear. So I'm leaving just a little bit of a white space, and this is just how I like to do it. I think it creates something of a three-dimensional look. So I'm just mapping out at the moment with very, very light lines. And the same up this side of the jaw. We don't want to make it too big of a gap. And then going straight up to the line of the face as it reaches the ear. So I don't need there to be a white gap there. And then up on the hairline. So just right up close to the hairline. This will be brought out a little bit more, but I'm just mapping for now. I don't want to go too far too quickly. We can always add more in, but it's harder to take things off, so just right up against the hairline. You can do this with any pencil, by the way, as long as you've got similar colours. So it doesn't mean you have to have the Polychromos to do it. I'm then going to bring some from the corner, the inner corner of the eyebrow on the right hand side of the face. And then follow that line all the way down to just above the nostril. So I'm going to pad that out just a little bit more at the top. And then we've got that side. And do exactly the same here on the left, starting from the inner corner of the eyebrow. Bring in the nose line down to just above the nostril. So you've got these two lines shaping out the shadows of the nose. And I'm also going to do just a little bit across, right in between the eyebrows, but a very, very light layer. Hopefully you can pick up on that on the camera, but it is a light layer, but it's just to give us a little bit of depth where the top of the nose, I'm feeling my nose now to try and explain it, but where the top of the nose dips back and goes up to the forehead. And then I'm going to take a little bit here as well, just on the eyelid, but on the other side of the eyebrow. And it can meet the line that we put there around the edge. So they can meet up like that. And I'm just going to pad this bit out a bit more because I want that to be a little bit closer to the eyeball. And just bring that down as well. Same here. And then the same mirroring on the other side. Okay, so now for the tip of the nose, I'm going to go almost all of the way to the tip of the nose, but not quite. And then I'm going to bring it up and connect it with the two lines that we made vertically. And then from the top of that nostril, I'm also going to extend it around as well, and then fill that little area in there. And the same on the other side, just extending and filling so that this purplish blue colour is now creating this very soft wave on the top of the nose. We can also put a touch of this underneath the nostril on both sides. So there will be some white space between the nostril itself and the bottom of the nose. We can then put a little bit in, I think, is this called the philtrum? We can put a little bit in there. But I'm not very good with these philtrums. I always seem to mess them up, but generally I'll put a line on the left hand side and a little bit of shading as it meets the top lip, and then leave it. Then we'll move on to the chin. So I'm going to put some of this colour underneath the chin here and round it down. So we're going to make the roundness of the chin. This can be as harsh or as smooth as you want it to be. Mine generally tend to come out quite harsh. I'm not as good of a blender, and I'm not as patient probably as Christine, and she's achieved a really smooth skin with hers. And I'm not a patient colourist. I like to hurry up and get things done. Bearing in mind that the picture I showed you at the start that I coloured in of the mermaid, that face took me 3 hours. So I'm going to try my best to do it quicker this time for you. So I'm almost meeting the chin lines in the middle here. And then I want to just kind of round it off a little bit. I don't want to go too far, but I generally do end up going too far. And then just making sure that we drag a little bit more pigment just underneath the bottom lip, so we get a kind of a curve under the bottom and then a curve over the top. I also want to do a little bit here just on the dimples of the edge of the lips, just like that. And where else? I think I'll start filling in the forehead now, just a little bit. So I want this to thicken up, and I'm going to bring this down from about here on the forehead, so like the first quarter. I'm going to bring it down and I'm going to meet it in a curved line to the top of that line. So to the edge of the eyebrow, I'm meeting that in a curved line. And that's going to create this glowing orb in the centre of the forehead, which I think looks quite mystical and fantastical and spiritual in itself, just to have almost like a chakra glowing on the face. Again, Christine did it a lot more subtly than I ended up doing it. And then we'll start to just make this a little bit darker at the top. Just to come out a little bit further, really. But just keeping that curvature there. And down again. Trying to keep a curve. See, this is supposed to be the highlight of the forehead, and it's actually quite large. So I might end up just bringing the pigment in a little bit so that it's not such a big orb. But we can work on that as we go through the other colours as well. And then again, just extending this hairline area a little bit more, just using soft, very light pressure, rounded strokes. So scumbling technique. And you'll end up with this orb in the centre and then two sort of curved triangles each side of the head. So this is the kind of map that you should be looking at, you know, at this stage of the process. But again, everybody's different. You'll probably have a different result to me, but this is just how I do it. What next? Okay, so I'm gonna start to just gently build some shadow along either side of the nose here, because this is a point of the face that it's not protruding like the nose is, so it's a bit further back, and we want to demonstrate that by putting some shading in there, and the same on this side. That'll do for now. And then this bit always puzzles me because it can turn out good and it can turn out a bit rubbish. But I'm going to try and do it. But it's this bit sort of under the cheek that gives you that look of having a lovely rounded cheek, but sometimes it gets a little bit too dark down here, and I'm going to try my best to avoid that. But we're going from the edge of the nostril on this side, and we're going to try and sort of meet it around a little bit, but very, very lightly, to create the cheekbone sort of effect, like this. We can bring that out slightly more. And then we're going to try and do the same on the other side. So going again from the edge of the nostril. And I'm just stopping every couple of seconds just to make sure that I'm matching up as much as possible with the other side, because you can end up with it not looking very symmetrical, and that triggers me. So I'm just trying my best. That's probably about right there, but it's very, very light, that line. And this can also be brought down a little bit to shape the edges of the top lip, where the top lip meets the nose. So just those edges, but again, very, very lightly, just a little bit of shading. And I think that that's it. Oh no, wait, I've forgotten the eyes, under the eyes. So I'm going to start from here up in the corner and just bring a little bit down here under the eyes. I'm not going to do as much there because I am putting some green on there right at the very end. So we don't need that much. But at this point, you've got the shadows mapped, which basically means that you've picked out all the places that you want your darkest colours to be. And you can start to haze the lines out a little bit with very light pressure so that they will nicely blend into the next. Right. Okay, so next up is going to be, I have to try and think what I've done. Yes, let's go with a bit of violet then, 138. And I'm going to go over all of the Delft blue that we've just put down. Just go over it and start to very slightly come out a little bit more. But again, this is a really, really light touch. We're at an initial stage of the process. If you think of this as a process of building, then we're still at the very beginning. So just little bits will really help. And I think what's helpful to do as well is to put in any of the solid colours, you know, in the places that you want them to be as well, and then you can work on the in-between. So when I say solid colours, I mean like the fuchsia, you know, the really bright pinks. We want to know where they're going to be quite early on in the process so that we can work around them. So I'll grab the fuchsia, it's number 123. And I want to have a little bit here in this left-hand side triangle. So again, I'm working very lightly. This is definitely not how I would usually colour. I'm very much, I want to get in there, hard pressure, burnish, vibrancy, done. So you have to be patient with this. And then here again on the right hand side, and I'm going to pull this down a little bit more over the eyebrow and create a sweeping kind of triangle on this. Okay, and then down on the lines of the nose, I want some on the inner side of the lines that we've coloured, so just around here and straight back up again. And we want a little bit of a line there just to indicate the front sort of ball of the nose, so to speak. Just a little bit of a line. I can always sort that out later. And maybe a little bit of pink just down the sides of the nostrils as well. And then right here I want to create a swathe of pink that goes all the way down to the jaw. And then on the chin, I want to define the inside of that rounded O shape with the fuchsia as well. And maybe just put a little bit here in the philtrum. I hope that's what it's called. I'm probably talking about a completely different body part. And then on this side, again, I just want quite a big swathe of colour here. Going to bring it down into the cheekbone a little bit more. And follow it down the jaw as well. Anywhere else? I don't think so. I'm just trying to remember what I did. It's quite difficult because I just sit on the settee, I put a film on and start colouring, and I've got no pressure on me to explain to anyone what I'm doing, or if it goes wrong I don't have to show it, although I usually do. If I have anything that goes wrong I like to show it because we're keeping it real that way. Okay, so I think that's all the areas of fuchsia that I want. Then from that fuchsia we're going to go in with Light Flesh, or whatever it's called now, number 132. And we're going to start to go into the white areas that we've left on the page and sort of fill those in a little bit. Not fully at this stage, just around the cheek, around the edges, leaving a little bit of white in the centre. So we've got a bit of room to blend and mess about then. And the same on this side. Bring it all the way around. And a little bit here on the upper lip, and the same on this side. Just checking to see whether you can see what I'm doing. Just going to pull that out a little bit. It looks a bit granular, but then it does anyway because of the tooth of the paper. And then we want some down here. And a little bit here as well. And that's about it for now. I'm going to come in with the blue now a little bit. So this is the Cobalt Turquoise number 154. And I'm going to start on the orb on top of the head. So just going round in circles on the orb on the inside. We're trying to get to the place to make it a little bit smaller now. There's something a little bit like that, just following the curves. And a little bit on the eyelid as well. So coming down from the purple on the left hand side and just leaving a little bit of a gap there at the top against the brow. Same on this side. Just a bit like that. And then we want to, the gap that we left above the nostrils that kind of goes like this, we want to put a bit of blue in there. Just like that. And then here on these sort of imprints here that we created underneath the lip, I'm going to fan some of this blue out. So I'm fanning it out like this. And again on the other side. Okay, I think that might be all of the blue for now. So we're going to pick up the ivory, which is number 103. And we're going to pretty much fill in the rest of it. Actually, before I do the ivory, I'm going back again to the Light Flesh 132, and I want to make this orb a little bit slimmer, make the white areas a bit smaller. until we've just got a small white area in the top. Also with this colour, just go up the inside of the nose, because that's going to help it to blend, help the pink to blend into the ivory. Right, back to the ivory. So like I said, I'm just going to do a light area in all of the white bits. Now this might not stay so light, because looking at my original, it's a bit more filled in than this, so I might need to come back in with a bit more fuchsia and a bit more purple at the edges, but we'll work on that in a minute. So here on the cheeks, and I think that's pretty much every area, isn't it, filled with colour now. So yes, back to the fuchsia. Just gonna, oh, that's a bit sharp. Just going to bring this triangle more in towards the orb. And then I'm going to go back to the Delft blue that we started with and just decrease the pink at this side. Obviously I'm working with a different shape face, even though it's not too far off, it's forward facing, but it might not work, you know, it might not look exactly the same as the one that I did last night. So I think that's about it for our first layer. Our first layer of colour. Let me just pop a bit more fuchsia in to close this gap. So there we are, layer one is done. Now it's a matter of just building the layers in. So we go back to the darkest colour, the Delft blue 141, and we start to deepen our pressure just slightly, because you can't go gung-ho with polychromos. You know, they don't work very well when you just try and blend them like a softer wax pencil such as Prismacolor. And that's why I find Prismacolor so enjoyable to use for my personal colouring style, because it's quick and it doesn't require layers. You can layer with it, but it doesn't require layers like the polychromos does. So like I said, we're just going over everything that we've mapped out with this colour, but we're just making it that little bit more of a deeper saturation. And we've still got plenty of tooth left on the paper. Now I've forgotten the ears, and there were no ears on the other one, so I'm going to have to make those up as I go along. And I always forget the ears, always when I'm doing a portrait. It's just something that's bound to happen. A little bit more under the lip. Hopefully you can see how this is deepening up now. And we'll go to the top of the head. We might as well do the full circle and then work on the in-between bits. So just slightly more pressure. I'm still not pushing hard though. And I'm just working this Delft blue into the blue into the cobalt blue, so that should be a nice blendy transition. Now there's nothing really to say that you need this big orb of light on the top, but I quite like how it adds to that mysticism of a skin tone like this that you could only imagine would be the skin tone of a mythical creature like a mermaid, maybe alien skin. You could use it for that as well. Just something supernatural, I suppose. And then we're going to go here again on the edges of the nose. And up this side. And I don't need to go over that very light midsection that I did there again, because that's all we need. Same on the cheeks as well. I don't want to define that any more than it is already. It's just a slight impression of there being shade in there. And down the sides of the nose a little bit more. And I think that's all of our Delft blue for this stage. Maybe just bring that in a little bit more here. Depends how much you want to show the bone structure as well when you're mapping out. You know, if you want the bone structure to be predominant and quite obvious, then you would put more of a deeper shading in those areas. Okay, and then let's add back in some fuchsia. Don't worry about the eyebrows for now. I'll leave the hair until afterwards. The paper that I'm using is a Neenah Bristol Vellum, just in case you wondered. It's got tons and tons of tooth for you to use with Polychromos and really make the most out of the layers. Now I will be using soon some blending solution. That is what I tend to use on faces like this where we're using lots of different tones, you know, pink and purple and blue, and the peaches in there as well. So I'm going to need a little bit of help, and that's where I bring out my blending solution. So the great thing about that is that once you've brushed that on, not only does it serve to blend, and it breaks down the binder in the pencil, which means that you're left with pigment, but not only does it do that, it also creates a really nice smooth surface for you to get those final blends on, and you know, give it that smooth look as much as I can anyway. So you can use, I think in America they have Gamsol, but as long as it says odorless mineral spirits, just try and find whatever you can. Or you can just keep building and building and building layers, and you won't need the blending solution, because you will come to a point when there is no tooth left in the paper and you've pretty much burnished it all. Okay, any more fuchsia? Don't think so. Let's grab our cobalt turquoise and go over those areas. Now there are a couple of colours that I've picked out that you've noticed I haven't used yet, such as the Helio turquoise and the dark indigo. And that is when I get toward the end and I think that some areas either need help to blend between, like the Delft blue and this turquoise, and what's the other one? The Helio turquoise. Sorry, no, the dark indigo is where I want some deeper shading. So whether I use those or not, I don't know on this particular piece, but we will keep them out just in case. So again, just making sure that I am deepening that colour, but also I'm conscious that I'm going to be using the flesh colour against this blue, and they don't really like to blend, so you've just got to be conscious of that. If you keep your strokes light enough at that transition area, you shouldn't have a problem, too much of a problem. Okay, so hopefully at this point you can see things coming together a little bit more as we've built the layers. I think that fuchsia's just not quite light enough on that edge. It looked very sharp, and we definitely need some light pigment to blend with the 132. You see I'm just getting that little bit more pressure going, and we're starting to see, excuse me, a little bit more of a blend also down here as well, and on the inside of the chin. So you can see that the orb at the top, and we have an orb at the bottom as well, and also the little orb on the nose. So I think probably my highlights are a little bit too, what's the word, a little bit too prominent. We wanted to try and get that a bit more smooth and less obvious, you know, as a shape. But we'll see if I can get there. And I think after this we will do one more layer of pencil, and then it might be time to get the blending solution out. The blending solution won't work very well if you don't have enough pigment on the page in the first place. So I made that mistake lots of times, where I would just do a very light layer and then expect the blending solution to both blend it and create this magical vibrancy out of nowhere, but there was just simply not enough pigment on the paper. So you don't have to completely colour it and burnish it, obviously, but you have to make sure that there is enough for it to be able to do its job properly. A little bit here as well, just on the eye. And then of course down into the nose. Now this is the bit that's a little bit difficult, because the blue and this colour don't really make sense to blend. So you just have to do your best, really. And then the ivory, number 103. Again, just to go over any of the areas that haven't yet been coloured with anything else. So middle of the orb, middle of this orb, the cheeks, and these kind of strange areas here. So that's second layer, right? That's the second layer. So we're going to put on a third, and always we're increasing our pressure, but not by much, you know, very, very subtle still, but we are at this point trying to build the pigment. So hopefully now I'll be able to get through this a little bit quicker, because I can see where the colours are meant to be now. So after that initial mapping process at the start, it shouldn't really take you long to build up the colour. A little bit under there, just as it goes under the eye as well. Forgot about that. We'll just pop some in there. We don't need a lot. Where was I? Down here. Again, under the lip. So I don't know whether you can see this. I'll try and bring it up to camera. But my pencil, oh gosh, my nails look awful. My pencil it's now got a slanted point on the end, and that is what I'm using to create the very smooth, soft strokes. And sometimes if I need a little bit more pressure, I'll give it a slight rotation, just so that we're catching the sharper edge. But we don't want a properly sharp pencil. We want to get it to where it's slanted at the end like this. So I just wanted to point that out, because it's often little things like that that aren't explained in techniques that you find yourself wondering where you're going wrong, because you're following everything. But it could be something as simple as that. So again, just building in at the side of the nose. Trying not to be too scared of putting pigment to the page as well. That's a lesson I need to learn, because I'm so worried about anything going wrong that I'm very cautious sometimes, especially using these pencils. You know, because the Prismacolor are so opaque that if you make a mistake, you can pretty much erase it just by using a different colour and hard pressure over the top. And with these, they're a little bit less forgiving, let's put it that way. I also want to put a bit of this light flesh in the gap that we left. Forgot about that. Just along the chin and the bottom of the jaw. So we want to have a little bit of that, just filling in that area before I forget. So hopefully at this stage you've got something akin to what you can see here. Again, just don't be scared to put the pigment on the page. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You know, if you go wrong, you make a mistake, so what? We're all learning. And like I said, I'm just trying to sort of copy a picture that Christine did, and, you know, in my own way, like trying to figure out the colours to use and the pressures and the layers and things. So we're all learning. So that's all of that. Grab the fuchsia, 1, 2, 3, twisting it so I can find the side that is slanted, and adding a bit more pigment here so that we've got a bit of a richer colour. Same on this side. And then here on the underneath of the nose, a slight bit on the top, but I don't want to define that too much. And then down the sides, start to mush that in with the purple. On the chin as well. Again, just using those little circular motions and constantly moving my hand around the shape, so that you should hopefully have the same kind of level of pressure as you go around. Don't worry too much about it. I've already sort of deviated here from my original picture. It's just how it goes. But I wanted to do this tutorial because so many of you asked me, and you know, that's what my channel's for. It's to help you with what you want to know. And in doing that, it also helps me because it's a bit stress relief, and I enjoy and get a lot of gratification from the fact that people, you know, enjoy what I do. And if it helps people, that's incredible. You know, if you've been having a tough time and you just want to put a video on and relax, or if you specifically want to learn a technique for something, then I like the fact that I'm here to help if I can. So I think we've got enough fuchsia here. I'm going to do the lips as well, but not quite yet. Let's grab the Cobalt Turquoise 154. I want to keep giving you the numbers because I have had comments in the past that I'm not clearly defining what pencil I'm using. And I don't use numbers on pencils, I use the names because I think I remember them easier. So that's why you'll see on my colour charts very often it's just names, and I do get requests from people saying, please can you put the numbers on? It's just something that I forget to do. So you see we've got quite a lot of pigment on the page now, enough for the blender to work with, I should think. And we are going to be coming back and doing a couple more layers on the top of the blender, like I said, it creates a very nice surface for blending once it's been put on. And if you don't have it, just carry on layering like this, and eventually you'll get to the stage where there's no tooth left and you're all blended and smoothed in. So don't worry about it. What next? The Light Flesh 132. Sorry that I can't remember what colour this has been changed to. Faber-Castell changed all of the colours with flesh in the name, and I can't remember any of them because I still have my original set. But like I said, the numbers are all the same, so you should be able to find what we're looking for. I'm also just going to go over that purple, very light curve that we did there, and the same on this side. Hopefully you can see how much the colour has built up. I think I already did this bit, didn't I? Oh well, can't hurt to put a bit more down. Okay, and then finally the ivory. We don't need too much of that. Blending solution time. So I'm going to put this book down and reach over for my blending solution. I've had this for years upon years and it's getting low, so I know I'm going to need some more. The one I'm using isn't actually available anymore that I know of. It's by Spectrum Noir. It's just called Pencil Blending Solution, but it is the same. It's a solvent, and it's an odourless mineral spirit, even though I find it has odour. So just pop that open, try and keep it sort of away from me so I don't get a migraine. And then we want a brush. Some people tend to do this with those paper stumps, the tortillions, but I like to use a brush. So I've just bought some new brushes, so let's see. I want something rounded. I think I'm going to go for this one. Doesn't really matter. This is a number 10 round. If that means anything to anybody. I know their sizes, but I'm not proficient in that kind of thing. So I'm going to dip the brush into the blending solution. Now, as I've explained before when I've used this on videos, I often get people shout at me because I'm not using it correctly, apparently, because I use quite a lot, and apparently you're not supposed to. So you see how I'm starting from the lighter area and then I'm just brushing it over, because it can move the pigments a little bit. So you will need something like kitchen roll, or if you're anything like me, it'll probably be the sleeve of my dressing gown, just to wipe off any excess pigment. Like just there, the purple had started to encroach a little bit. So we just have to make sure that we're being careful about where we're putting the brush, because it will move the pigments. And again, I'm doing a dip, and I'm starting off on the cheeks and then moving into the deeper areas. So we always start light so that we don't drag too much of that darker pigment all over our light bits. But generally at this stage, I'm just brushing the solvent onto the page, because again, it can be reworked. You don't have to worry a lot about where the pigments are going at the moment. And I'm going to dip again. Now, usually people say I use far too much, and maybe that's true, but it's just what works for me. I don't like it when the solvent starts to evaporate too quickly and your brush starts to feel dry. I don't like that. So I make sure to keep it wet with the solvent and make sure that there's plenty on. And you see I've got some purple there on the tip of the nose that I don't want. So I'm trying to remove it with a clean bit of solvent, but it might not work. Hopefully we can put a little bit of ivory or even white over that. And I'm probably going to use a paint pen at the end anyway, just to do some more solid highlights. So I'm not too worried. But you will end up with a rather scary looking speckled pigment girl. And it looks like you're almost ruining what you've done, but don't be scared. It's normal for it to look like this. And once it's dry, we'll have that lovely smooth base to work on to get everything back to where it should be. But I just like how this takes care of this first bit of smooth blending for us, you know. So any areas that you want to work, you can do that. Just keep cleaning the solvent off your brush if you're going into the darker areas. So I'm not dipping at this stage because I've filled the whole face with solvent. I'm just kind of using the tip of the brush to work on some of the more harsher blends. But we're going to come back in and fix that up with pencil, so don't worry too much about it. So yeah, just anywhere that you think it needs a little bit of help. And it will be the smallest things. So just using the very tip of the brush. Until your blends are looking pretty good. If I remember, I'll leave the link for these brushes in the description. I did add a couple of my own brushes to that set, but the majority of them with this kind of colour, what do you call this? It's got a special name. With this kind of colour, then they're all in the set, but I'll leave you a link if I remember. So I quite like this this stage of the process because we've done 3 layers of pencil and it can get slightly tedious. So it's nice to mix it up just by painting this solution on and dabbling about with it. Now this will dry or evaporate by itself. Hopefully I can show you the other side. Let me just get you on camera. You can see on the other side the solution has, well, it's soaked the other side a little bit, but it's absolutely fine because as soon as that evaporates and dries, so to speak, that will be gone off the back of your page. So you can use this in double-sided books and it won't make any difference. It's just while it's wet that it has that greasy kind of impression on the back of the paper. So we do want to wait for it to dry a bit, but we don't want to wait for it to dry fully before we start coming back in with the pencil. That's another thing I get shouted at for sometimes in comments, is not leaving it to dry. But this is the technique that I like to use. I think that bit of solvent on the page that's still wet, it sort of melts the pigment in the pencil a little bit as well. Now, I cannot, recommend this because it might harm your pencils. All I can say is that I've been doing it for years and my pencils have been fine, but don't take my word on that. Just do what you feel comfortable with. If you want to wait for it to dry fully before you carry on, then please do. Wouldn't want to give anybody advice that ruined their pencils. So I'm done with that now. Like I said, we're going to let it have its dry. It just feels slightly greasy at the moment. It doesn't feel wet, so to speak, and it doesn't do anything to the integrity of your paper either. So if we were using a wet blender, like a water-based blender, it would be pulling up the paper straight away and you would have a lot of problems. But with this, it makes no difference. So it's a bit like an alcohol marker in that way, in that you know, you use it on the paper and it never pulls up the fibres of the paper. Okie doke, I'm just going to go straight in. So back in with the Delft Blue, and hopefully you will see almost straight away that we're getting a beautiful, deep, painterly look to our pencil. Can you hear Rosie? She's doing a little squeaky thing. I've got you on. Yes, I've got you on. I thought for a second I'd been off screen and almost had a heart attack. Okay, so we're doing what would be the fourth layer of pencil now, but because we have that beautiful surface, our pencil is just gliding now. And we're getting all of the really deep, rich colour of the pigment. So this is where that pop of colour that I think everyone was enamoured by in this skin, this is where it starts to come to fruition. But you can see, can't you, just how that blending solution has made a difference to how the pigment lays down. Now there's still some tooth in there, but I think there's still some tooth in the one that I did before, so it is what it is. You could probably keep working it until it was completely burnished. But if you're happy with how it looks, then why waste your time? I always just want to get done. I get to a stage in colouring pages where I'm almost done, but I'm just doing the fiddly bits and I'm so ready to be finished with the page and move on to something else. So it becomes not very mindful for me because I'm fed up of it. So I think I have to just move on quickly. That's why I like to get pages done quick, so I get that gratification and satisfaction of a page finished, and then I can move on to the next before getting bored. And that's how it works for me as a stress reliever. I'd be more stressed having to colour in layers endlessly for all time. I think I might have missed some solution there because I'm getting quite a rough effect, but there'll still be enough left on your brush to mess about without having to open the pot. You see how it's just melting those white speckles away. I might use a bit more later, depends how I feel. I like this effect. Making sure I'm on the flat edge. Now the only thing is with a skin tone tutorial, if you're not colouring the whole page, is the skin can often look very strange because there's no hair or clothes or other features to blend in with it. So if this skin looks a bit strange at the end, stranger than it's meant to, being purple, then that might be why. But I think I've come out too far here, haven't I? It looks like she's got a little bit of something growing on the side of her cheek. I'll fix it in a bit. A bit more down here. Just into that little wave shape. Excuse me, that little wave shape. Carrying on up from there. And then just here under the chin. edges. Where else? Just here on the edge of the eyes. Don't want to go too far with it. I really don't want to mess that up again, because I usually do. Okay, so there's our purple. Now we're going to our fuchsia, and we're going to work on those blend lines between the purple and the fuchsia as well. And the solvent that's still drying will really help with this. I've almost covered the eyebrows entirely. I might have to come back in after and try and figure out where they were, but hopefully this is more of a demonstration to get you to practice something a bit out of your comfort zone. It doesn't have to be perfect, does it? You see, we've really filled in the fuchsia here. Same just here against this purple edge. Probably gone a little bit too far there. I'll try and scale it back with the next colour if I can. I think I'm starting to rush now because I'm seeing the kind of end results coming to fruition, and I just want it to be done. So I've got to pace myself, just calm down a little bit. I think that's it. 1, 3, 2. I'm just working against the edge of that fuchsia to scale it back a little bit. It will also serve to desaturate it a little bit as well, because the pencils on top of the solution start to become slightly more opaque, so they can go over a colour and mute it a little bit. That's the word I'm looking for. Just get a little bit more muted so you see the difference. I'm going to try and push this fuchsia back a little bit. Now against the purple. Now this is again a bit awkward because these two colours, unlike the fuchsia, the purple doesn't really like to blend with this colour. So you are going to end up with a slight bit of a muddy area, but hopefully by the end result it will just look more natural of a blend. Just put that little bit here, and then I'll skip to the blue first and then we can come back in with the light flesh because I want to work on the blue purple blend up here. So like I said, the blending solution is still helping you to blend. So it allows you to mush some colours together a little bit like you would a Prismacolor. So I'm just working on getting that nice and blended as much as I can. Obviously this whole thing is a lot harsher than how Christine did it. She must have just built up layers for ages. But I do like the poppiness of it, you know. Now what did I do here on this bit? I did put some Delft blue there, didn't I? I think I might need to put a little bit of a darker blue on there, just on the across bit. I'll work on that in a minute. Sorry, I'm talking to myself and you probably don't understand what I mean, but it makes sense to me. Here we go, put some of that blue in here, blend it with the purple. Again, under the nose. This is a smaller nose than the one I did yesterday, and it's proving a little bit harder to work with because I think I might have used a little bit too much pigment around the nose. But hey ho. That's the blue then. So I wanted to come back, didn't I, with the light flesh and try and get the blue to blend it in, but it's not a great combo. I forgot the fuchsia on the chin, didn't I? I'll just put a bit in there because I want to mute it out again like I did with the cheeks. It's not too bad. There's somewhere else I was going to do it. Oh yes, so I'm going to go over the fuchsia on the forehead because I want it to be a little bit more scaled back like the rest of the face. So hopefully if we just add a layer of this over that fuchsia, it's going to look a little bit more in keeping with the rest of the face. I think I've possibly used more pigment on this one than I did on the one that I did last night. Because the one I'm looking at now that I did last night, it doesn't look as bright and bold as this. So maybe if you wanted that original effect, just try not to put so much colour down. I think I've gone a bit wild. And then the Ivory 103 should hopefully blend in with that peachy colour that we've just put down. And it keeps a little bit of a creaminess to the skin, so it's not that we're blending it into pure white, it's blending into a cream. And it just looks a bit softer, I think. I'm going to go over all of this with the ivory. See, there's something here that I'm missing. Maybe I need a little bit more pigment down from the nose. Maybe I was a little bit too conservative with the amount of pigment that I put down there. Let's have a bit here, try and blend this blue. It's a good idea to use your lightest colour in your palette that you're working with as a bit of a blender. You know, obviously there's blender pencils for that kind of thing, but it works sometimes to do this. This Aubrey is really large. It's not decreased like I thought it might have done, so I might have to work on that. I'm just going to get some of this Delft blue again and try and make this a little bit more blended. It always worries me when I'm asked for tutorials that I won't be able to emulate what I managed to do when I was sat watching the film. And I did try and set up a tripod, but it's not very good for actually capturing the angles that I want. Where's my paintbrush? Just add a little bit more of that blending solution into this area. I've not re-dipped it, it's still enough on the brush. Maybe I can just drag a bit of this purple across. You know how I said I wanted to make it just a bit deeper? Just drag a bit of the purple. That might be enough. It's not too bad. And then a bit more of the light flesh. Again, just try and make this area look a little bit neater. I'm looking at the one I did last night and it looks so much better than this, and I feel like I'm letting everyone down. Now for that area, I did say that I wanted to add a little bit more purple, didn't I? What if I pick some up and just paint some across? Just pick some up from this really deep part and just paint it across. Just to define this area a little bit more. And same on this side as well. Just bring some of this purple up into here. Okay, what am I missing? I feel like something's missing here. Because this looks terrible at the moment, but I'm sure at this stage mine looked better than this. I think I'm just going to have to keep working it until I get there. So this light flesh might be the key. If I can just build into these highlights a little bit more, because they do look huge. See, I don't like how this area looks muddy now, but it kind of does on my original one, because the colours just aren't really meant to be skin, are they? So it's not surprising that it's not easy to make it work. I'm just wondering if a bit of ivory over that fuchsia might pale it down even more. I'm not too happy with this. I'm not even sure if I'm going to post this video, so if I do, then please be gentle with me. It's funny, isn't it, how when you've got the pressure of filming a how-to for something, that it all of a sudden becomes more difficult than it was originally. I'm wondering also if I just do the eyes and the lips, it might help it to not look so scary. Just using a bit of ivory. Try and push these nostrils back a little. Just using the ivory very lightly as a blender. I don't like this area. This needs to be redone. What if I add some more blue and we make it even smaller? And then I'm going to have to come back in. Actually, I'll tell you what I'll use. One we haven't used yet, the Helio Turquoise, for going in between the blue and the purple. Bit of a transitional colour. And then back with the light flesh. So I've made that area a little bit smaller. Adding a bit of the Helio Turquoise again, blending it out with the Cobalt Turquoise, and maybe just a little bit more Delft Blue under here. Sort of connect it around to the top of the eye sockets. Why does it look so different? Okay, I'm going to do the lips. Just let me get the lips done and then we can see how it looks. So, dark indigo is what I want now, number 157. And with the top lip, I'm just going to map out, again, some shadows. I want this to curve like a wave again, away from the edge of the lip and then back down to the corner. So we've still got some top lip underneath that line. I'm also going to define the Cupid's bow. Like this. So this is what we have right now. And then I'm going to use some of the cobalt blue on the inside of that. So inside bottom, and a bit of the light flesh inside top. So with the indigo, blend in a little bit more. And then underneath the line, a bit of light flesh again. See, this picture is a lot smaller. I'm finding it more difficult to add in the same amount of pigment. Okay. And then bottom lip, let's go back to Delft Blue. Again, starting from the corners. Meeting each other in the middle. Bit of fuchsia right at the top of the lip, top of the bottom lip rather. And then the light flesh to fill in the gap. Back in with the Delft Blue just slightly where it hasn't blended. And again, a little bit of light flesh just at the bottom of the bottom lip as well. Just going to blend a bit more of the blue on the top lip there. I'm trying to add the same amount of detail as I added on the other one, and because it's not as big, it's not allowing me to do that, so it doesn't quite look as good. I also want to put a little bit on these dimples. Let's add some of that green into the eye. So I've got the Phthalo Green 161. Just kind of doing the waterline of the eye. And then with the light Phthalo Green, just sharpen it. We're going to blend that out a little bit underneath so it doesn't look like such a sharp green line. I'm going to grab my brush again, still got a little bit of the solution on it, just haze that out a little bit. I also should define the eyes. I'm just thinking of what's going to make it look like the one that I did last night, and all the different processes that I went through. Okay, so I've got the black pencil. I'm just going to define the eyes a little bit because I think that will help. So I'm going to do a line over the top. Let's get some lashes in here. So I've got a really sharp black pencil. Just a few lashes and then some in between thickening lashes. And just fill in a little bit of the bottom so it looks nice and thick. Very slight little bit underneath, but not too much. And I am going to colour the eyes because I really do think it will help at this stage. Okay, eyes. I did green eyes on the other one, so let's do that. So again, just using the same greens. We've got the phthalo green for the top bit of the iris and the light phthalo green for the bottom bit. And leaving a little bit of white cushion at the bottom. And something a little bit like that. I'm also going to come in with the Helio turquoise and very slightly darken the top of the irises a little bit more. I'm also going to bring that light flesh under here and start to smooth the chin out because this looks very harsh, doesn't it? The jawline. Oops. I'm just wondering if I use a bit of the violet pencil also, just to slightly go over that, and it might help it to look a bit more blended. So this has gone from a tutorial where I was very confident into a total lack of confidence now. But I'm hoping it will work out as we keep going. A little bit of fuchsia here. Sometimes it's just about the little tiny bits of colour that you add. A little bit of blue. Maybe just a bit of dark indigo here to redefine the edge of the nose. Get those nostrils put back in. Oh, I need to get the black again and do the pupils so that we have nicely defined eyes. So just using the black pencil. There is a bit of a highlight that Daria has drawn on there, but I might just do my own highlights. So let's just fill in the pupil entirely. And I always mess up on pupils and they'll end up looking completely different to each other, and then I try and add more and then they end up being huge, like they're on some kind of drug. So make sure the pupils are nice and dark. I'm also going to use the dark indigo to define the iris a little bit, very slightly. Then we've got our trusty Posca paint pen in white to add some little highlights back in. And I'm going to use a medium grey, so let's go for this one. Cold Grey 3, got to sharpen it. Just on the eyeball, very slightly at the top. because that's going to give it the look of shadow from the lashes, and it'll just make it look slightly more realistic. You may not be even able to really tell, but I think I'm zoomed in quite a lot, and it's looking even more granular on the screen than it does in real life, so I'm going to zoom you out soon. I wanted to try the white on the tip of the nose, didn't I? So let me give that a go. So I've got the Polychromos white. It's very little. That's helped a little bit, I think. Still got some of that pigment there, but maybe if I use the Prismacolor white just on this instance, because it's a bit more opaque. So I've got Prismacolor white now. That's not too bad. In fact, I'm going to bring this white up the centre of the nose a little bit. In the middle of the chin. I'm not happy with the orb on top of the head. I think I may have to maybe even put a bit of fuchsia in here, because it just looks so different to everything else on the face. So I'm just going to pop in a little light layer of fuchsia between the darker blue, the Helio, and the Cobalt. Just pop that in a little bit there, blend it backward. And then the Cobalt Turquoise. Oh, that's starting to scratch out the pigment now, so I've got to use the flat side. That's just to make sure it's blended with the fuchsia. Maybe just bring it in a little bit more. I think this is probably something that you would have to do if you wanted this defined third eye chakra kind of area, whereas I probably should have tackled the forehead a little bit different for this. But it is what it is. Once again, it is what it is. And, you know, I'm not a professional. I'm just saying that as it's like, you know, please don't think that I know what I'm doing, because I'm just experimenting all the time. I'm just using the ivory now, where I should be using the peach, shouldn't I? I mean, I think it's made it slightly better. It's a bit of ivory over the whole lot now, just to shrink it a little bit. I mean, I'd be tempted at this stage of this drawing to actually draw a third eye on here. Just to try and show that we meant to have this gigantic orb. So I've got the black. What did I want to do? Add just a few little lashes here. And I haven't done the ears, have I? I told you I'd forget. Those bottom lashes are horrific. Oh God. What do I need? I need the phthalo green. Just trying to get rid of some of those lashes a little bit. Let's get the light phthalo and go over them. Oh dear me. Maybe just some little tiny weeny lashes between might not make these look so spidery. Oh no. Okay, I think I'm going too far with the eyes now, and I'm going to start actually messing it up. So let me get my Posca. In fact, actually, I feel like the top of the eyelids isn't quite where I want it to be. So I'm going to add a bit more blue, the cobalt blue, turquoise, cobalt turquoise. I'm losing my head now. And also we need to put those eyebrows back in. That might blimmin' help as well. The only problem is I can't quite see them. So I'm just sort of guessing. I'm just using a black pencil for this. At this stage, like I said, I don't even know if I'm going to post this video, so I might as well go all in, hadn't I? I mean, those eyebrows look nothing alike. Okay, white Posca pen. Let's have some cartoon highlights on this. I did do this on my other one. So we want a few highlights on the lip. And a couple on the top lip, but I don't want to go too far with it. I also want to have a little bit here. Actually, you know what? This might be a bit too thick, this Posca. I'm going to try out a pen that I was sent from a friend in America. It's this one. It's the Papermate Ink Joy in Bright. I'm just going to test it on a piece of paper first, make sure it's working. Okay, there we go. So yeah, I think that Posca might have been a little bit too wide. I'm going to put a little bit on the edges of the nostrils. And a little bit on the edge of the jaw. Same on this side. And a bit on the chin as well. Just on that line where I had the light peach on the edge. Oh, I also put some white dots on the cheeks as well, just to give it an extra bit of a celestial galaxy type of creature look. And you know me and a white dot, if all else fails, that's my backup. I think I also put a little bit of white over the eyeball as well, just to create more of a glassy shine to them. I don't know whether it's just been such a process that I'm now starting to think that it looks okay or whether it looks rubbish still, but yeah, bit more Delft blue there on the edges. Maybe I was just being too quick to write it off and I just needed to play with it a little bit more. Now, I'm not going to say it's as nice as the one that I did yesterday, because I don't think it is, genuinely. A bit of helio turquoise here. But I hope that it's given you a little starting point to try and create your own mermaid, galaxy, alien skin. And hopefully it's not made you just run for the hills because of how much of a trial I feel I've had with this, especially towards the end when I thought it was all going to come together and then it just didn't. I'm just adding in all kinds of bits now. But yeah, I actually think if I drew a third eye up here, it would make a lot more sense with the skin. But but I also don't want to ruin it with my crap drawing skills. So I'm in a bit of a quandary. I think that is a little beauty spot there that Derry has put on, so I'm going to put that back so that it doesn't look like a bit of smudged pigment. I'm just going to zoom you out a little bit so that you can sort of see it for what it is, and just imagine that the hair is done, the clothes are done, you've got a background on there, and it won't look so odd. But if I just bring this girl back in, you can see that it's not too far off. It's just, I guess I haven't deepened the pigment as much as I did here today. But like I said, hopefully it gives you a bit of something to start with, especially with the colour palette and stuff, you know, that you might not have known what to use on it really. I want to try and draw this eye. Do you know what? I'm just going to do it. So I need a pen. What have I got? I've got a Faber-Castell Artist Fine Liner here. I don't know if it still works. Yes, it does. This is going to be terrible. Okay, so I need like an almond shape. Okay, not too bad. I've got to add in the pupil. Probably could have done this in pencil first to save myself the anxiety, but oh, that's not too bad. And then that was the iris, not the pupil. Then I need to add the pupil, don't I? Okay, not too bad. It's almost like it's looking up, which might not be too bad of a thing anyway, because it's the third eye and it's looking up and divine and all that kind of stuff. Then I want some thicker black here. And I want some, do I want eyelashes on this? I'm probably going to have to do it so that it's not a predominant side of eyelashes. Like on the other eyes, the predominant side is the outer corner. But with this eye, I probably will do just all kinds of different lengths all across. I've probably done too many there because it's starting to look a bit like a sweeping brush. I'll just add in some thicker pigment there. Don't forget, I can't draw. I'm not too bad on an iPad where there's an undo button, but right now I'm going to bring in the phthalo green at the top because I want it to match. So phthalo green, light phthalo green, and I used a bit of Helio, didn't I? Where's that gone? How do you lose a pencil? Where are you? Okay, the Helio's disappeared, so let's just use a little bit of dark indigo, because I only need like a tiny bit of it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Just on the top of the iris. Then we want some grey for the eyeball. So I'm kind of colouring on top of loads of layers of pencil here, so it might not look as great, but we'll just try it. I think I'll also have a little bit of a black over there as well, because that grey hasn't gone on too well. And then we want the highlights in the eye. Maybe just a little bit of white down here. I mean, it's not the best, but it's not the worst, is it? Do you think I should put some of this under it so that it matches all the other eyes. So again, this is the phthalo, what is it? The phthalo green. And a bit, just a bit of the light phthalo green. Do you know what? That's not turned out too bad. Like, I actually thought it would be horrific and I'd ruin the whole thing. But that is not too shabby. And I think it helps, you know, it helps the face, because that big orb in the centre just wasn't working, was it? But now I'm happy about that. I feel like I've done something here. I've pulled a pen down somewhere. Oh my goodness, it's gone right through the nose. How did I manage that? Let's see if I can get rid of it with the ivory. You know when you don't even realise what you've done, and then you think, oh my goodness. That'll do, that'll do. That's it, I'm done, I'm leaving it. Oh no, I didn't do the ears. Oh gosh, I've got to do the ears really quick, haven't I? Because that will look strange otherwise. Oh, there was the helio. Right, a little bit of Delft blue then. Do you know what? I actually quite like it now. A little bit of Delft blue inside the ear. I'm playing this by ear, but literally, because I don't know where shadows are on ears. Bit of Delft blue. What next? We want some. Let's get some helio blue. I'm literally just doing this to finish off the face. I've not got any special technique here whatsoever. Bit of fuchsia. Light flesh. Let's just do the in-betweeny bits. Let's try and make it look a bit darker now so that it's at the same saturation as the face. Can you see how fast I'm doing this? Because I just want it done. I can't believe how good that eye looks. I'm sorry, but I've always messed up everything that I've tried to draw into a colouring page, and the fact that I didn't do it this time, I'm actually quite pleased. The ears look terrible. Let me try and define them a little bit. So this is just a mess of marks in this ear. Makes me laugh because we've all got ears. We know what ears look like, but you know when you try and think of the shape of them and the shadows and stuff, it's like your mind goes blank. Just adding white on now to distract from the crap ears, but we'll also tie it back into the face. There we go. I'm done. I'm finished. I hope you've enjoyed it. I really do. I know it's been a bit of a trial to get through, but I don't think it's all that bad in the end. If you just picture everything else done around it, you know, it should look pretty good. And like I say, we'll compare it again to this one. It's not too far off, is it? Do you see how I didn't even attempt the necks? I did so poorly on this one. But anyway, there's your tutorial that you asked for. I hope you enjoy it, and at least you can have a laugh with me anyway if you think it's all gone a bit Pete Tong. So thank you very, very, very much for bearing with me through this long video. And yeah, I'll see you soon on Colour with Claire.